now. We the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard. It's the last week of the regular season, week 18. We've never had a week 18. The first week 18 ever in NFL history. Lengthened regular season. Last week of predictions. Some playoff spots still on the line. A lot of them are already clinched, but we have some drama still to come, so we'll talk about that. And of course also college football national championship. Well, I guess we'll quickly talk about the two playoff games we've seen with Alabama, Cincinnati, and Georgia, Michigan. What was your impression? First of all, how are you doing? Let's start with that.
Well, I'm doing good. If you've looked at our predictions from last week, I put another 3 spots on you. So that's bringing our total for the year to 171 to 162. So I have 9 picks on you right now, and we're running out of games here. Yeah,
serves me right for picking teams like Detroit, right? I have no right to complain at all. So that's the sort of this. I gotta win the playoffs at least, though. I'm not gonna win the regular season, but I gotta win. I gotta win the playoffs.
I don't know. You could pick opposite of me this whole week and end up doing something maybe.
But that would be like miraculous, right? And it's I guess week 18 everything could happen.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of players are gonna sit. Teams are already in the playoffs, so anything's possible.
I think at this point, though, I'll just go for like overall score because it's so unlikely. I'll just try to get the right games, and then I'm gonna set my sails towards the playoffs and hope to win that one. Get you on that. But what do you think about the current situation in college football? The 2 games we saw and the game that's ahead. Maybe we'll get into that later as well.
I know that there's a lot of people mad about this outcome. A lot of people. A lot of analysts too. I mean, there's guys out there who are steaming mad about it. But the fact is, and no one can deny this, the SEC is the most talented conference in college football, and there is 2 juggernauts in the SEC, and those guys are once again playing for the national championship. The only time Georgia doesn't make the playoffs is when Alabama cancels them out. So you could see this if every other season, if Georgia didn't have to play Alabama in the SEC championship, this would be the outcome every season, basically. That these 2 are inevitably going to meet in the championship, if not in the first round. People are mad about it if they're not SEC fans, but it was exactly what we expected. Alabama came out and pretty handily disposed of Cincinnati. They didn't belong there. Everybody wanted to see if they belonged there, but the fact is they did not belong there. And Michigan did what I expected them to do. I know there was people picking Michigan after the Alabama game. People thought that Georgia had lost it, that they weren't the most dominant team in college football all season. But they came out and proved that they are the most dominant team in college football by completely destroying Michigan right on the line of scrimmage. That's how they did it. They beat them on the line and took points at will and made Stetson Bennett look like a NFL-bound quarterback. But yeah, that was it, man. It's just what everybody expected. And 2 SEC teams are going to play in the national championship.
Yeah, well, if Alabama doesn't dispose of Georgia in the regular season, Georgia makes it. It's weird that Georgia can never do that to Alabama, right? It's almost like Alabama is a bit better of a team. But we'll get into that. We'll talk about that later. Quickly, though, about these 2 games, I actually have to take a huge step back about what I've been saying all season. And I have to disagree with you on one thing, which is that I think Cincinnati belonged. I gotta say, I expected this to be so much worse. I saw the spread last week, Alabama minus 14. I dumped 20% of my bankroll on that because that was like the easiest bet of my life. And I won the bet, but I thought this was going to be like a 40-point spread or something. I thought it was going to be a blowout, start to finish. It was not. I mean, in the first half, that was a losing bet. I was losing equity left and right in the first half because Cincinnati were holding their own. And they were defending Bryce Steve Young. Not offensive. They were slowing down Bryce Steve Young better than Georgia was in the SEC championship game. Those cornerbacks, those defensive backs are legitimate. I think Cincinnati definitely belong there because Notre Dame didn't exactly look incredible.
Yeah, that's right.
And who else are you going to throw in there, right? Michigan. I mean, I think Cincinnati looked better than Michigan. I think they belong more because Michigan played terribly.
Oh, yeah.
And especially if you talk about the defensive backs. I mean, you had receivers. It was like in Madden, whenever you have like Randy Moss superstar version, and he's just faster than everyone, so you just streak him, like you put him on a fly route every play, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's what it seemed like with Georgia, except the quarterbacks didn't even try to cover. Like you had people running open.
Yeah, they were giving up while the ball was in the air. Like you could see the cornerbacks look back and just stop running.
Coverage busts left, right, and center. It was horrible. That team did not belong. And I think I will say this: if somehow they seed Michigan at number 1, because they go like they don't go undefeated that season. Alabama, Georgia, before this game, they seed Michigan number 1. I think Cincinnati may have beaten Michigan.
Oh wow!
I think they may have gone on because the two performances I saw. Given that they played against relatively equal opposition, meaning Bama and Georgia being relatively equal in terms of strength, I think Cincinnati held their own more than Michigan. And I'll say, like, Michigan, again, Aiden Hutchinson is phenomenal. Even as an Alabama fan, he's the best defensive lineman in the country. I think he dominated in that game. He almost made a lot of plays. Always got his hand up on those screen passes. But just one guy can't do it by itself. Defensive backfield got toasted. Cincinnati played fundamentally more sound defense than Michigan. And that's actually a game I would have loved to see. I would love if there was a consolidation round, like for the third place.
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome.
Cincinnati versus Michigan. That would be a close game.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I all season I said Cincinnati doesn't belong. Those schools, they don't play the SEC. They don't play any big teams during the entire record. They don't belong. They play a different level. Right, it's like they just play different level. Just like an undefeated college team should not make the playoffs in the NFL because they're undefeated. It's different level. Did not happen the way I thought. It was a blowout. It was Alabama dominated, not nearly as much as I thought, and Georgia dominated more than Bama against Michigan. So actually, Cincinnati was like my biggest surprise by how good they were.
I don't know.
So I think they valiantly held their own.
I look at it two different ways. Like, I think maybe Alabama wasn't going to push themselves because they know they could easily take them. You know, they just ran the ball, like, especially at the beginning of the game. There was no need to throw downfield because they knew that Cincinnati was never going to catch up on offense. So they didn't need it. And then I also look at the fact that Georgia was the most dominant team in college football the entire season, and Alabama was not. So, yes, maybe it was a closer game with Cincinnati, but it doesn't necessarily mean that Cincinnati was better than Michigan, in my opinion.
It maybe not necessarily better, though I would contest it. I would definitely like to see it, but comparable. Like, in the same ballpark, at least. It's not like these are the three big teams and then that one random team that's completely a league below everyone else. I think if I had to pick 4 teams, I think those were the correct 4 teams to pick. I would not have had Cincinnati subbed out for a bigger school after seeing them against Bama. I think they're serviceable.
Yeah, definitely not Notre Dame because they beat Notre Dame in the regular season. Yeah. But
exactly.
I don't know. I mean, who else do you put in there? Ole Miss. Yeah, I mean, you may be right. Maybe there just was nobody else.
I think so. I think they're the 4th best team in the country, and they deserve to be there. So that's more than I expected for sure. And yeah, Bama. I mean, their game plan was clear. They're gonna wear them out, and the longer the game went on, the more their advantage because they wore them out on the offensive line, defensive line, and they were just had more sustainability, more consistency there. And they didn't have to throw a lot. But they weren't able to pass a lot when they tried at first. I mean, this defensive backfield has some NFL talent in it, compared to Michigan at least.
I'll agree.
Cincinnati was strong. Good. Hands up to them. Did not expect it. Did not expect them to be that good. The spread to me was way too small. I think the spread was fine. 14-17 or something. In hindsight, was actually fine. We'll get into the championship game at the end of the NFL predictions. We have to go through these, though. Week 18, a lot of these games are not important at all anymore because there's no playoff implications, but some of them are. We'll do all of them anyway for completion's sake. Starting off, Chiefs at the Broncos.
Yeah, and what you just mentioned right there is the reason you could possibly come back if you pick the right teams here. And there's still 16 games to be played here. I think I'm going to go with the favorite. I mean, I have a lead, so why take any risky picks? The Chiefs are coming off of a loss, so yeah, they are firmly implanted into the playoffs at this point. The Bengals were just amazing to be able to make that comeback and win that game. But I still think the Chiefs are going to roll right over the Broncos. The Broncos are just a speed bump at this point. They could sit some key players here. You never know if Tyreek or Patrick's going to sit. The Broncos are going to play for all they're worth. I don't even know if Drew Lock trots back out there this week. Might see old third stringer back in the game. And that's the reason I will stick with the Chiefs on the road.
Yeah, I agree. This is not a very exciting game. If the Broncos had something to play for, I might pick them because the Chiefs do not. And they might be just sandbagging and let the Broncos win almost. But the Broncos are already eliminated. Chiefs already clinched. Nothing to be seen. This is going to be a preseason game. All backups out there. Anything can happen. I'll take the Chiefs to take it home. Actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna take the Broncos. Whatever, right? Who cares? I'll take Denver.
Yeah.
Division game. I just said anything can happen. So the edge is smaller. I guess if Patrick Mahomes doesn't play, maybe Denver's got a shot. I like Drew Lock. Maybe if he's out there, I don't know. Cowboys at the Eagles.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys need to play this out. Yes, they are also firmly implanted into the playoffs, but they need to get that momentum back because the Cardinals were not setting the world on fire. Yes, they are an 11-win team at this point, but they were looking bad for the two previous games before that. And the Cowboys had come off of that huge mollywhopping, and now they basically sat down, and Ezekiel Elliott apparently can't run the ball anymore. Whatever happened there, the Cowboys are just not running the ball, and they lost Michael Gallup. The Eagles have something to play for. They need this victory to secure some kind of spot in the playoffs, and with that, I think I'll stick with the Cowboys, though, because it's still the favorite, I suppose, and I'll give you a chance to take the Eagles if you want.
I kind of don't want the Eagles, to be honest, because I believe what you said, that Dallas is going to play, because there is a possibility for Dallas to still drop to the 5th seed, and that's what they're trying to avoid. They want to stay 4th seed for sure. Arizona's knocking on that door, especially after that game last week. They're no longer secure in being the 5th seed. Even as division champions, they are going to, I think, trot out their team there. And contrary to that, the Eagles have nothing to gain or lose. Really, they have clinched the playoffs. They can either be the 6th or 7th seed, which is not in their control at all. No matter what happens to them, they're going to be in the same spot, and they have no control over their own destiny. But they made the playoffs, so it's probably a more important game for Dallas, if only slightly, than Philly. So I agree with that. I'll take the Cowboys as well in this one. We have the Packers at the Lions.
Yeah, and you made me think about it. I need to have the playoff picture pulled up here while I'm doing this. I was just going off of memory, and you made some good points there. Packers and Lions, I don't think this really matters. Lions have nothing to play for except for a top pick. I guess they're not going to make the number one spot at this point. I don't know. Is it still possible? What do the Jaguars have? They're both two wins, right?
Yeah, if the Jaguars lose, if the Jaguars win, Lions lose, they'll overtake them.
Yeah, okay, so I think they're going to lose on purpose. Packers should win this one easily.
There's a good chance that happens. No, I don't think this Lions team is the kind of team to tank intentionally. I think they actually try, but who knows? I agree. Packers should win. I'm assuming that Aaron Rodgers is probably going to play. Actually, who knows? Maybe they'll run out Jordan Love. But even with Jordan Love, it's the Lions. I know the Packers aren't great without Aaron Rodgers, but I'll still beat the Lions without him. So, if only barely. I'll look at the spread later. Maybe there's a value bet in there, but I'll take the Packers. Colts at the Jaguars.
Same rules apply in this game, but I do want to say, Colts, how do you mess up and let the Raiders have a chance at making the playoffs? Like, you blew it. You guys were on such a roll there. You looked like the unbeatable team. You looked like that team that could have came in and actually made a run all the way to the top of the mountain there. And people would have been scared to play the Colts in the playoffs, but not anymore, because they saw that if you can basically rule out Carson Wentz here, And just, well, I don't know. I mean, the run game wasn't even that effective. It was an all-around ugly game. But the Colts should easily beat the Jags. They got a lot to play for. They really need this win, and the Jags want a number 1 spot also.
Absolutely. The Colts, I'm disappointed about the Colts. Even though I picked the Raiders and actually won that bet because I didn't think Carson Wentz would be there because that was... we made those picks on the night that the new the COVID protocols were adjusted to shorter time frames to be able to be cleared for return. So I couldn't take that one back, but I guess it's good I didn't. Yeah. The Raiders now have a legitimate shot to the playoffs, which is incredible. And yet the AFC, I'll say this, is a lot more complicated. In the NFC, it's down to 1 spot and to 2 teams. In the AFC, it's down to all 3 spots and it's down to 4 teams. A lot of things still possible. And the Colts, by the way, are on the same bubble as are the Raiders, so they have a must-win game here. Coincidentally, at Jacksonville, who just got completely bullied around by the Patriots in traditional style, I guess. 50 points on them. Yeah. This team's got some work to do. I don't want to get concerned about Trevor Lawrence just yet, but if something doesn't happen during the offseason, we've seen the very greatest of quarterback talents, and I'm specifically speaking about Sam Darnold, by the way, get messed up by this exact sort of environment situation. This cannot go on for another year or two for Trevor Lawrence. There might be some problems there because he's not really developing. He's not better now than he was in his first game, and that's not good. Mm-hmm. He needs to start getting better to be the player that they drafted him to be. But that's, we'll see. We'll talk about that in the offseason, I guess. Got the Colts to win. No fuss about it. Yep. The Washingtons at the New York Giants.
Well, this is kind of a tank bowl here, right? 6-10. Washington is completely eliminated, and so is the Giants. So really, it's just who really wants to go out there and fight for the higher spot. The Giants have announced that they are running it back once again with Danny Dimes and the coach, so I don't think they're really concerned about trying to get a quarterback this upcoming season, unless they just pull a 180 and say, fooled you, and like, yep, we're going to take Corral or someone this season. But the Washingtons are a better football team in general, so I will take them on the road.
Do we have an idea of who's starting for the Giants at quarterback?
I think it's going to be the neck.
It's gonna be the neck, man. If it was Jake from Georgia, I was about to say Jake from State Farm. If it was Jake from Georgia, I would take him. But because that of course, obviously, right? But
well, they pulled him in this game and put the neck back in. So.
Yeah, if it's Mike the Giraffe Glennon, then I'll probably stick with Washington as well. I'd like to say Jake from, but maybe
Jake
not.
From State Farm.
Maybe, man. He's in a company of pretty good quarterbacks. He may learn a thing or two.
Yeah.
I'll take Washington as well. The Bears at the Vikings.
Man, that was a horrible game. As far as the Vikings, it was great that Aaron Rodgers went out there and won, but I thought it was going to be more of a shootout than that, and it really kind of let me down on that end. But Jesus, the running back didn't show up, the receivers didn't show up. Minnesota put up a total of 10 points, and really, you should have been able to exploit that Green Bay passing defense. Everybody else has. Even quarterbacks who are not known passers have exploited that backfield this season, and the defensive back, that is. I'm going to take the Bears because they seem to be on a roll right now, so I'll take them on the road.
This is actually a tough one because the Vikings were in the playoff picture for a long time this season, and just they hit the worst part of their performance when it mattered most. Now they're out of it completely with no chance. I'll still take them to win the game, even though this is completely meaningless, and it's a good opportunity for the Bears to maybe just make a statement win and even jump the Vikings in terms of a record. I'll still take them. I'll take Minnesota to bounce back just for pride and win the game. Close up the record to 8-9 and think through some stuff in the offseason because they have been super average for many years now. That's not why Mike Zimmer is still there. They maybe got some things to do. Titans at the Texans.
Wow, the Titans really showed up. I'll tell you that, man. Woo! Put a hurting on them. Texans are what the Texans are. This should be an easy game. Derrick Henry's getting closer to coming back from what I understand. I don't know that he'll be in this game. They don't need him. They're still running the same game plan without Derrick Henry. I'm going to take the Titans on the road.
I have to agree with that as well. Texans looked good in the first half, or rather they made Trey Lance look bad in the first half, but after he kind of found his rhythm, he started picking them apart as well. So not necessarily the toughest team there with Houston, so I will take the Titans as well. Without Derrick Henry, with or without him, doesn't matter. They're in the playoffs. Houston is not. They have a lot of rebuilding to do, and this should be a formality. Steelers at the Ravens.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? The Steelers are at 8-7-1. The Ravens are at 8-8, and both of them still have a shot at making the playoffs right now. Depends on what the Raiders do this week. Unfortunately, the Dolphins are not, who are also at 8-8, but I guess head-to-heads still count in this league. Yeah, I don't really know who to pick. I mean, the Steelers are coming off of a big win, which everybody touted as Big Ben's last home game. The Ravens, it's really, I think it depends on the quarterback. Lamar is still not looking like he's very mobile, but I think he still gives them a better chance to win than Taylor does. I'm gonna call it a toss-up and give the 3 points to the Ravens and say the Ravens make the playoffs.
So, either of these teams has a chance to make the playoffs at very, very long odds. It is very unlikely.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't have the destiny nor has. Both of these teams need to win, first of all, to make the playoffs. They also need the Colts to lose. And then they also need the Chargers to lose. Which,
and the Raiders.
For the Steelers, it's either the Raiders or the Chargers is fine. For the Ravens, they need the Colts, the Chargers, and the Dolphins to lose. So the Ravens have probably the longest odds, and yeah, they're 11th seed right now. They have to jump up to 7, so they need everyone else to lose. Quite unlikely. I don't really believe, because Miami holds the tiebreaker over the Ravens, interestingly. So quite unlikely, even for Pittsburgh. Mostly because I believe the Colts are going to win, and all of this is not important. The Colts are going to win, and they're just going to. They're going to establish themselves as the 6th. It's going to be down to the Chargers and Raiders for the 7th. That's my opinion. But in this game, it's tough to pick because we still don't really know about the Lamar Jackson situation. That being said, the Ravens look good against the Rams. They really held their own. They look better than we thought, and I think they're going to do it again here. Now, Pittsburgh also beat the Browns, obviously. To my slight surprise, but man, TJ Watt, by the way, 21.5 sacks on the season. He's 1 away from the single season record and all but closed up the Defensive Player of the Year against the Browns last night at this point of recording, which is immense. That's incredible. And he might not make the playoffs. So I'll take the Ravens. They kind of convinced me a little bit more, but both of those teams are missing the playoffs anyway, most likely. Bengals at the Browns.
Tell you who's not missing the playoffs is the Bengals. They cemented themselves into the playoffs. First time since 2015 with Andy Dalton. Though the Browns, however, have basically put themselves to the very bottom of that division, which I said they would. And with one more loss here, I think we'll have that wrapped up. I think the Bengals could easily go into Cleveland and beat the Browns the way the Browns are playing right now. So I'll take the Bengals on the road.
Yeah, the Bengals, I mean, I've been very pleasantly surprised by their success. They are getting strong at the right time. Joe Burrow, look at the last 2 games he played. Yeah. Incredible numbers. Like him and Jamar Chase as well. Also, he started off the season hot. Kind of mid-season slump, if you could call it that, for Jamar Chase. And now he's just been unstoppable. The best receiver in the league for the past few weeks. And going to the playoffs, like I tell you, this is the one team. I think the Bengals, looking at the playoff standings in the AFC, this is the one team that no one wants to play for right now in the AFC. Is the Cincinnati Bengals. And they're going to win this one as well, I believe. They're going to make their presence known. They're improved to 11-6. Bright future, but they might as well be in attack now mode. I think they're going to have a good seed. They're going to play a playoff game at home, and they're going to have a good shot because they're going to be facing one of those stragglers that is going to most likely sneak into the 7th or 6th seed. A lot of things possible there. I'll take the Bengals at Cleveland as well. Niners at the Rams.
Yeah, real quick, speaking of Jamar Chase, I was looking at this the other day. I think I'd have to go through all of them, but I think LSU has the most successful wide receivers in the NFL right now. It's crazy to think there's a ton, and they're all productive at this time.
Justin Jefferson, there's Odell, Jarvis Landry.
Yeah, Russell Gage. There's a few more. I'd have to look at it, but yeah, it's crazy. The Rams and the Niners, I think this is just going to be me versus you. I kind of like the Rams for some reason. I've never been a Rams fan, but I do like Stafford, and I like Sony Michel, and I like what the Rams are doing. Now, Stafford has struggled lately. He hasn't looked like that MVP quarterback that we thought he was going to be at the first of the season, but the team is still so good. This is still kind of a super team that they have put around him. Cooper Kupp looks amazing. Obviously the best wide receiver by a really long distance out of that 2017 class. I looked at that today. Like, it's ridiculous how far he is ahead of all those other receivers in that class. I will take the Rams at home. I think you're going to pick the 49ers.
Is it because Sean McVay really knows how to beat the Niners?
Yes, absolutely.
That's because he's really been having their number recently. Okay, so here's the thought process if you're the Rams. I usually think from the Niners' point of view, but here's the thought process if you're the Rams. You have clinched the division, you have clinched a playoff spot. Either option A is you rest your stars, you probably lose the game because you made it already and you go into the playoffs. Or option B, which is the one team that you always struggle against and the one team you definitely do not want to run into in the playoffs? It's the Niners. The team you haven't beaten in forever. You haven't beaten in 5 years. It's the Niners. Yeah. So if you can beat the Niners today, and potentially without their quarterback, you have a chance to eliminate them from the playoffs. That's not just depending on that, because it also means the Saints would have to win. But that would be for the Rams' point of view. They don't want to run into the Niners in the playoffs. They want to run into that kind of struggle. So which route do they take? If you're the LA Rams, I'm not so sure about that. Now, Matthew Stafford hasn't been looking all that convincing, so maybe an off week would be favorable for him, but I don't know. I have no idea what route they're going to go. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter. The Rams play everyone, the Niners win. Rams play nobody, yeah, guess what? Niners win. They've done it earlier this season. Now, I'm concerned about Jimmy Garoppolo and if he's not available, because Trey Lance has demonstrated that he's not really mentally ready to start, even though his sheer talent can carry him over teams like the Texans. That's not going to work against the Rams and against that caliber defense that can contain him, that can cover, that can ball hawk and beat him with stunts and with disguised coverages. So if Jimmy's out, picking the Niners, but hopefully he's going to be back. Who knows? But I'll take the Niners anyway because they beat the Rams. It's nature's will. It's the order of nature there. Panthers at the Bucks.
Yeah. Speaking of super teams, the Bucks really don't have that super team right now, right? I mean, you look at it; they are down Leonard Fournette. They're probably down Ronald Jones right now. I haven't looked at his availability coming up, but he went out of that game. Antonio Brown took himself out of the NFL once again by doing jumping jacks in the end zone shirtless for some reason. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to laugh at the guy if he's having some kind of mental breakdown or something. Like, maybe this is a mental illness. I don't know, but it was hilarious to see what he was doing. But yeah, he may be. I mean, I don't think he's ever back in the NFL again. Of course, we know Chris Godwin's out, and Mike Evans has been busted up. So you got one star receiver and then a hobbled star receiver. I don't know. the Bucs are not the super team that we thought they are, which actually means something really nice, that we may see them get knocked out of the first round of the playoffs, and we won't have to worry about that nonsense anymore. But as for the Panthers, they can easily beat the Panthers. It doesn't matter which quarterback the Panthers throw out there. The Bucs are going to roll right over them.
So, for the Panthers, this is like my expertly diagnosed assessment of the Carolina Panthers for the season and what they have to do to win, or how they win or lose. This team runs on Christian McCaffrey. I'm pretty convinced on that. Having seen this entire season, quarterbacks come and go, success come and go. It kind of hinges on that running back. So keeping him healthy is going to be a big priority going forward. Who the quarterback's going to be? Is it someone in the house right now? Is it going to be someone who's getting drafted? Same about the head coach. No one knows that. No one can tell you right now. Me personally, big fan of Sam Darnold. I think he's at least the best quarterback they have right now. He's better than PJ Walker and Cam Newton. But are they going to be able to actually provide him with the environment to develop like the Jets never have been able to? I don't know. But kind of a lost season, kind of a wasted season there for Tampa Bay. I will say this one thing, and we all made fun of Antonio Brown, obviously, and it was very easy to do so. There is some nuance to the story that makes it a little bit more double-edged, which is that Antonio Brown was to be paid a $300,000 incentive for reaching a certain number of receptions in the season, and he at that point he was, I think, six or seven receptions away from that point, and they were intentionally taking him out to avoid paying him, which has happened to other players before. That's happened to Victor Cruz prominently with the Giants, and that's been happening to Antonio Brown. So he got mad about that. That's why he left. So definitely some shady business going on. Now, of course, you can't act like that as a player. Even then, you can't while your team is playing on offense or they're on the field, you can't just walk across the field, go into the locker room, and make a show out of it. And yes, of course, there's mental illness involved. There's no doubt, but it's not that he just decided to quit because he was throwing a fit because they didn't like. They did something he didn't like. They definitely did him wrong if that's the case. Of course, he still can't act like that. Also noteworthy, they have not released him. He's not showed up on the waiver wire. The Buccaneers still have the rights to Antonio Brown as of this day. Only thing we've heard is that Bruce Arians after the game said he's no longer part of this team, which was very much a reaction on the spot. But there's nothing official whatsoever to confirm this. Antonio Brown today is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, and until anything official happens, that's going to remain the case. So you got to wonder what kind of strings Tom Brady's pulling there behind the scenes to keep him around for the playoffs. We'll see. We'll see about that. But as for the game, long talk, Bucs win. Seahawks at the Cardinals.
Yeah, Seahawks just stomped a mud hole in the Lions. And Rashad Penny looks like the running back, that he was drafted to be. Now, this is crazy. That the Cardinals, like I said earlier, they were falling off, and then they kind of drove their way back. And right now, I'm not going to say they look like one of the best teams in the NFL, but they look like they are back in that upper echelon. And it's really weird to see because I thought for sure they were on a downward spiral. So with that being said, I know the Seahawks looked mighty dominant in that game, but it was against the Lions. I'm going to expect the Cardinals to continue their trend right here. I know they don't have much to play for. They're already in the playoffs. So, but I don't know. I don't think the Seahawks have just found their way back all of a sudden. And they don't have anything to play for either. So I'll take the Cardinals.
I think the Cardinals do have something to play for in terms of seeding because they're fighting with Dallas for the 4th seed. And that's because that's the cutoff point. That's the threshold, right? So that's an important point. If the Cardinals make the 4th seed, they're going to either play San Francisco or Philadelphia. If they make the 5th, they're going to play the Rams or Tampa Bay. On the road, by the way, as well. So, and then they play the other two at home. So there is something there for them for sure. They would want to win this game, have Dallas lose, and make the 4th seed, which they they held the 1 seed for a while, and the second seed at least. Earlier this season, kind of played sloppily for a bit and let go of that. So this might be time to get it back, especially now after losing to Dallas. So I will take the Cardinals to win this one. I think they trot out the number one offense there, and they beat the Seahawks because that's a division rival that hasn't looked so strong. Possibly last game as a Seahawk for Russell Wilson, by the way, and Pete Carroll. One can only hope. Break it all up, rip it to pieces, and burn it to the ground, I say. But Cardinals win this one, and we'll see. Hopefully Seattle relocates, renames themselves, and plays a different sport. Patriots at the Dolphins.
Yeah, the battle of Alabama quarterbacks once again. Here we go, Mac Jones versus Tua. I feel sorry for the Dolphins because I really started believing in the Dolphins, and then they completely left me down. And oh my God, dang near got shut out last week, and it was a horrible game. It was something I did not want to see it. I had fantasy assets in that game that I was depending on that really let me down, but I guess I still had a decent week regardless. But still, I hate it that Tua is going to miss the shot at the playoffs. This happened almost in the same fashion last year, when he was switching off with Ryan Tannehill. And we thought, okay, if these guys get on a hot streak, they're going to make the playoffs. And then they got shut out right at the last, in week 17, as a matter of fact. But here we go again. The Dolphins are not making the playoffs, and I feel bad for them. Tell you what, I know the Patriots aren't going to sit anybody, but I still believe in Tua more than Mac Jones. So I'm going to pick the Dolphins at home here because the Dolphins always get that one win over the Patriots each year.
It seems like they do, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does seem like they do. I'll say this, the Dolphins right now are still one of the better teams in the league. They're by far the best team that is going to miss the playoffs because they started 1-7, and that's ultimately their downfall. They could not recover from the slump start, which they just weren't able to catch up, and that's why they're not making it. If there were like another 5 weeks to go, they would be a lock. I definitely have them favored to make the 7th or the 6th seed in the AFC. Now, they've mathematically disqualified themselves with one slip up. In terms of quarterbacks, I believe in both these guys a whole lot. Obviously, they're Alabama products. Good things come out of Alabama. We know that. Especially recently in terms of quarterbacks, quarterback factory, and the best of the bunch is yet to come. He's on the way. He's cooking. Now we'll talk about him a lot in the future. So, as for these two guys, Tua is a more talented quarterback. Of course, Mac is the more consistent. I guess Tua has an extra year on him. They're pretty close to me right now. Both pretty good. Both have some more potential, but I like that both have established themselves as franchise quarterbacks. I'll take the Patriots. I will take the Patriots in this one because I believe in Bill Belichick more. That's really it. And the Dolphins now, I guess they had this incredible run and the deflating loss towards the end. I don't see them really being able to channel that energy once again. Even though it is a divisional game, it's the Patriots and you'd love to beat them. I don't see it happen. I think they've kind of they're deflated a bit. The season's over now, so Patriots to win it just for some seeding. For a seeding situation there. I think they hold on. Saints at the Falcons.
Now, I will say this real quick on that. Yes, Tua does have a year on Mac Jones, but they were both recruited and came into Alabama the same year. And Mac sat behind Tua for a few seasons there. Sat behind Jalen also. Saints and the Falcons. This is just going to be a rivalry. Saints are on the bubble, which I don't see things going right for them to make this. I think that, they're going to play their hearts out, I'm sure, because they think that there's probably a possibility. I'd have to look at how it lays out. Maybe that they get knocked out before the game even starts, depending on how it plays out. But this is just going to come down to the rivalry. It's always a tough game. I will pick the Falcons just because I feel sorry for them these days.
Well, the Falcons have an opportunity to knock the Saints out of the playoffs with a win, so that should be more than enough motivation for Atlanta.
They got no pieces left, though. I know I'm picking the Falcons, but man, if Pitts don't play, who is he throwing to?
That's a good point. That's a divisional game. Channel whatever you got. The Saints cannot make the playoffs out of their own power, but they have to win if they want to. For the Saints to make the playoffs, they have to win. They also need the 49ers to lose, because they do hold the tiebreaker. The Eagles are already through because they hold tiebreakers over both teams, which is odd because the Niners beat them head-to-head, but I don't understand those tiebreaker rules anyway. They don't make sense to me. But Saints absolutely need to win. They cannot afford to lose or they're out. And for the Falcons, it's a top opportunity. And I hope, of course, so I don't have to rely on possibly Trey Lance to win the game, that the Saints just lose and we can all get it over with. And so I'm rooting for your Falcons. But realistically, I'll pick the Saints because Alvin Kamara is on the field and he's probably the best offensive player in that game, especially without Kyle Pitts, but even with Kyle Pitts, to be honest. He's looked unstoppable in parts. He was a difference maker in large parts against Carolina, along with the Carolina offensive line being made of Swiss cheese, of course. And I think this is going to be the case here again. I'm, of course, rooting for the Falcons. I hope this is going to be like Matt Ryan's last hooray or something. And he's going to eliminate the Saints, do what he does best. Hopefully that happens. Don't believe it, though. I'll take the Saints. Jets at Bills.
Yeah, the Jets got a lot to look forward to coming up. Maybe they can continue to put an offensive line out there or keep building an offensive line. The defense is turning out great. CJ Mosley looks like a superstar. And Zach Wilson looks like a legitimate quarterback at this time. And Braxton Berrios, surprisingly or not, looks like he is a legitimate wide receiver out there. They have some pieces. They got something to be hopeful for in the future. But the Bills really need this win they are the 4th seed right now, but looking at it, they could drop to the 5th seed and not. Yeah, with the Patriots win, the Bills could drop out of the head of the AFC East. They would be 2nd in the AFC East. So they're going to go out there and play for it all, I think. And the Jets have not been extremely good, as hopeful as they are. I'm going to take the Bills at home.
Yeah, the Bills have to win because the 5th seed has to go on the road in the playoffs, which in this case would be at Kansas City, most likely to Kansas City, Cincinnati, or Tennessee. No one wants to do that. And if the 4th seed, you get to be at home and possibly play the Raiders if things go sufficiently wrong. It is entirely thinkable. So yes, they are going to win this game. Jets. Talk about them more in the offseason, start next year. I'm predicting Braxton Berrios to be one of your fantasy breakout sleeper players for next season already. Yeah. Because I know that you're going to love that, especially with Zach Wilson there. That offense has some potential there. They'll add some to it, and we have something to look forward to. It's going to be a dynamic division all of a sudden. Who would have thought? Bills win this one, though. And then Monday, this is possibly the most impactful game in the late window for a playoff scenario because this has everything taken into account, and this is going to dictate the fate of those two teams: Chargers at the Raiders.
Yeah, this could play out to where the winner of this team gets in and the loser does not, because they're both sitting at 9-7, and they're right there with the Colts and the Steelers, and Ravens probably are out of it. I agree with that. But yeah, I think in this case it should just come down to the more talented of the two teams, and the more talented is the Chargers, even though they're going to be on the road here. The Raiders look legit, but still I don't think they quite have the firepower to beat a charged up Chargers, forget the pun, a committed, a driven, a hopeful Chargers that need to make the playoffs. They really need this, and Herbert needs it in his second-year campaign. I will take the Chargers on the road.
So this is first of all, no matter what happens before, this is a win and you are in game. Whoever wins this game is in the playoffs for sure. If this game were somehow to be a tie, the Chargers are in. They hold the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Raiders, and the Raiders could also be in if the Colts were to lose, if the Steelers were to lose. Both of these teams, in fact, would make it in. Actually, there is a possibility that there's this 3-way tiebreaker where the Raiders make it in and the Colts do, and then the Chargers are left out. Same situation with the Eagles, Niners, and Saints, but we don't even want to think about that sort of nonsense. I don't understand that rule at all, and I hope it doesn't come into play, because I'll also pick the Chargers because Justin Herbert needs to be in the playoffs. The playoff need Justin Herbert because he's the third most valuable player, I guess, this year. Didn't quite stand in the competition to the end of it, even though I'd have liked him to, but he's been playing well. Big future for this team. Gotta beat the Raiders. There's absolutely no way the Raiders should make the playoffs after the kind of season they have had. They have absolutely no business even being in this discussion, even though they're playing at home here. The Chargers better win. I mean, for all that is holy, the Chargers better win this game. I would not. I cannot bear seeing the Raiders make the playoffs there. So I will take the Chargers with that as well. Now, I want to quickly bring up again the college football championship because we have vested interest in that. I'll say this first before we go into any discussion, and you're going to love to hear this. Georgia's favorite. I'm looking at the odds. 2.5-point favorite. Georgia Bulldogs. How does it feel? How does it feel to be the favorite?
Oh, it doesn't feel good because in this state, we don't deal with hope very well. When we believe we can win, we don't win. We can get there, we just can't win it. So when you tell us that we are favored, I hate that because we do better when we are not favored. I don't know what it is. It's got to be a curse because it happens to every team in this state. The Braves won because they were not favored at all to win any of those playoff games. I don't know. I don't like it. I wish that Alabama was favored by like 7 or something like that. I wish we could change that, but we can't. And I'm just going to depend on the fact that this whole season, outside of one single game, Georgia has been the better team. And I think in the end, as long as it's not a mental thing, as long as Kirby does not let Saban inside his head once again, the Bulldogs are a better team than the Tide right now, and they should win this game.
So I will correct you on one thing, even though you were nicely in the flow there. The reason the Braves won is because of the single worst refereeing blunder of the 21st century in all of professional baseball. You know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. A certain team got robbed, possibly off that NLCS title, but we don't talk about that today because it's football season. But you know it's true. You know it happened. Anyway, well, I'm going to take big surprise drummer, right? I'll take Alabama. We wouldn't have to even talk about it if I didn't, because I don't know if you knew this, but I think Alabama has a slight advantage at quarterback.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Possibly, right?
We got Stetson Bennett. Although he looked good against Michigan. But
He looked, yeah, well, the receivers were all 10 yards wide open. All he had to do was not overthrow them. Like, anyone could have probably made those passes, probably. It was not like he fit the ball into a tight window, right? But yes, you got Stetson Bennett. We got Bryce Steve Young, who's pretty good, and and also there's two extra reasons to this. Number one, this game is being played on my birthday, so I obviously have the good karma to get my team to win. And also, they've done it before, a couple of weeks back, not just snuck by. I mean, they dominated. And you think that there was nefarious powers at play, or might have been. And I also want that not to be the case, so I need Alabama to win to disprove that once and for all. So yeah, I'll say Alabama takes it again, because they're the better team, and quarterbacks come through at the biggest spots. We've seen the exact same thing, a lot of parallels with Tua Tagovailoa do it against the same team, the exact same spot. To Devontae Smith, by the way, who at that time was an unknown, and now he's turning into a superstar as well. In the NFL.
He was a freshman.
Yeah, and now he's like top 10 pick, great player.
You know what we also saw in that game was Riley Ridley versus Calvin Ridley on either side of that game.
Right, yeah, that's true. A lot of superstars. You look back at those games. Yeah, Jalen Hurts getting benched, luckily, and a real quarterback taking over to win the game.
Yeah,
exactly. And now Jalen Hurts is throwing through Devontae Smith in the NFL, and they're making the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
it's a crazy sport.
Tua's got a Waddle down there.
We've got Jalen Waddle. That's something.
Think about that. We did miss out on a lot of Jalen to Jalen passes because of that, though.
Yeah, I don't mind because Alabama would have missed out on a lot of won games if they continue to start Jalen Hurts, and probably that national championship. So I'm glad that Tua came in when he came in. Should have been earlier than that. But yeah, Bryce Young is possibly the best quarterback out of the bunch. I'm talking Mac Jones, talking Tua. He might be the best when all is said and done. And Tua, by the way, when he came out, he was one of the greatest quarterback talents we've seen. And Bryce Young, I think, can even eclipse that. He'll have one of the best college football careers of all time, starting this week with a win over Georgia.
I'm going to count this toward our predictions also.
You're going to count it for points?
Yeah.
Sure. Let's do it. We'll count it. Maybe I can make up an extra point.
Yeah, as if I need my lead to be bigger here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Well, you don't need any more titles, though. You've won baseball. The city of Atlanta does not need to win anything at sports for the next 25 years now.
Yeah.
You're set. No, you're good to go.
No, that's not going to work.
And even that wasn't right because of they can't afford a good umpire. Terrible. Bama wins, quarterback's better. Second half, it's going to be close. I think going into halftime will be a very close game. And then jumping into the second half, I think the passing attack will prevail. I do believe. And also, I think Alabama has a better defensive line than Georgia. I know you disagree with that one. Listen, I just talked about Aiden Hutchinson. I think Will Anderson is almost every bit as good. I think he's a legitimate top 5 pick in the draft as well. In terms of defensive linemen and pass rushers. I think they'll get to Stetson Bennett. I think he's not up to the occasion. And Bryce Steve Young is going to.
Well, that offensive line is going to have to step up and stop that, which they didn't in the last game. And once they got Stetson Bennett shook, he cannot complete those passes. That is one thing about Stetson Bennett. He can complete passes, and he will take a chance and do that. But once he gets whopped in a game, he kind of loses it. He gets shook, he gets nervous, and it doesn't work out too well after that.
I agree with that, and that's why he's going to throw one too many picks at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
That's possible.
We'll see.
That's possible.
We'll see. Yeah.
But I think the Georgia's defense is just going to step up and be the defense they have been outside of every other game this season except for Alabama. And as long as the offensive line can hold off that defensive front, then Georgia should have no problem winning this game. I mean, that's why they're favored.
Well, they've played against this caliber quarterback once, and they lost.
Yeah. But, it's hard to beat a team twice in a season also. I'm sure Vegas factors that in.
Yeah, it's a close one for sure. Probably also the results of the previous games when they beat Michigan more decisively than Bama beat Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. So that might factor into it too. It's a close one for sure.
There's a few teams that Georgia beat much more decisively than Alabama beat this season. Florida is one.
You could argue this either way. I mean, it's a very close game. I will give you that. I don't think this is a given. I'm going to rely on the quarterback because that's the most important position, and that's the biggest difference out of all positions. That is the single biggest difference between the teams.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing Georgia is lacking compared to Alabama is the quarterback.
Oh yeah, if they're even on quarterbacks, I can see Georgia being favored. Probably be a 5, 6, 7 point spread. But I think quarterback makes up for a lot, and it's still a good team. So, I mean, I knew that we were both gonna just go with our team with being homers about this, right? There was absolutely no doubt.
I would feel much better if we didn't have dollar store Baker Mayfield out there, but
oh, okay. Wow.
Never been a Stetson fan, but I think if the team plays right, he can pull it off.
Can we call him at least like a dollar store Doug Flutie or something?
Yeah, he's more of the size of Doug Flutie than Baker Mayfield, but the comparisons to Baker Mayfield always come in because he was a walk-on and Basically went to a smaller college, and threw the most interceptions in all of college football that season, I believe. Then he came back to Georgia as a walk-on again, and finally worked his way up. The same route Baker Mayfield took, basically. And Baker Mayfield got to be a Heisman. You're never going to see Stetson win a Heisman, though.
No. Well, can't wait for Stetson Bennett to get drafted to the Falcons next year. We'll talk about that when it happens.
Please don't.
Let us know your predictions in the comments. Also, MVP voting. I'll put that out on my channel once again, second to last time, because we got one more final voting after the week. I'll say this, though, even though I don't want to influence people's votes, I'm surprised by how much of an odds-on favorite that Aaron Rodgers has become now. Last I checked, he was I think a 5 or 6 to 1 favorite, with Tom Brady and Jonathan Taylor still equal as the third, and then Justin Herbert and whoever. But I'm kind of disregarding Jonathan Taylor because he's not a quarterback. But picking for me, if I can't pick Herbert, I'll take Aaron Rodgers. Also favorite, he is the best player. Nothing much new to say. He should win it. I want to know what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it's Aaron Rodgers only. Yeah, I think as long as the committee can get over what he did, and I'm sure it's not really them holding a personal grudge. It's just PR. And if they feel that enough time has passed, they have no choice but to go with Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, enough time has never passed. This will be this will be in 50 years. When he's gonna ring the ceremonial bell at the Packers Stadium, there's going to be people bringing this up. And yes, the committee voting on the NFL MVP is selected by the Associated Press, and that is really what made me take out a $20 bet on Tom Brady. By the way, whenever I got 5 to 1 odds, I thought there is no chance that less than 20% of the time the media just denies Aaron Rodgers the award because they don't like him. So that seemed like a good bet to me. We'll have to see though. Brady almost lost to the Jets, and that would have been it. And he also only won because they couldn't cover someone down the sideline, which was just the worst throw I've seen in a while. To give up a game like that is just terrible.
Without his superstars, Brady is kind of ineffective. Yes, he has been really good in the past, but at this point in his career, he needs his superstar receivers out on the field to be at the top of his game, and he just doesn't have that right now.
Always did.
And he did, always. I mean,
took us 22 years to figure it out. The Patriots, he's always at him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jack Gronk, Edelman, Welker, Randy Moss.
Yeah, those are the guys that made his career.
We'll see how he fares in the playoffs with a diminished weaponry, diminished arsenal of receivers there. Might be a tough one, but we may end up seeing him against the Packers, which would be interesting at least.
Yeah,
we'll get to that. When we get to that, let us know your vote on that as well, and your pick for the national championship game, the highlight, the big one. You got Bama or Georgia, and who you have in the NFL. You can fill out if you want to, your playoff picture. A lot more there to do in the AFC, a lot more spots to give out. NFC is not that exciting anymore, but still an interesting one. Next week we're going to be we're still going to be back. We're going to do all the playoffs. I was thinking about this. We haven't talked about this yet, but because the episodes are going to be shorter and there's also no fantasy anymore during the playoffs, we may have another segment in which we bring back some of those games or quizzes we've played. Or some alternate discussion if something comes up to kind of fill in those 45 to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
But we'll have to think about that. I have some ideas already though. So let us know all your picks or your predictions. Drop us a like, and last regular season week, one more exciting week, and then we get into the playoffs. So it's starting to count now. Drop us a like. Thanks for watching, and we're gonna see you in the next one.
Deuces.
Check the scoreboard. Check.